Basic. Lesson 1. Number 1. I visited Australia with my friends last August.
Oh, really?
Basic. Lesson 1. Number 1. I visited Australia with my friends last August. Number 2. 1. Call. Caught. Number 4. 1. Aren't you Jack Smith?
No, I am not. I am Tom Jones.
2. Don't you like apples?
Yep. Lesson 2. Number 1. Tatsuo is... Number 2. Vacation.
Lesson 3. Number 1. One afternoon, Mike went to the city library to do his homework.
Lesson 4. Number 1.
Paul, look at those people over there. Lesson 5. Number 1. Mr. Brown stood at the bus stop. Number 2. 1. East. Number 5. 1. Rhea and Tom are talking about a tennis tournament.
Lesson 6. Number 1. Most of the time, magicians give good shows.
Lesson 7. Number 1.
Have you finished your homework yet?
Number 2. 1. Which do you like better, tea or coffee?
Lesson 8. Number 1. One day, I was walking with my dog on a mountain. It was a fine day, so I felt well. My dog was running here and there around me. Number 5. 1.
Tomorrow is my sister's birthday, so I'll buy a storybook for her today.
That's fine.
Lesson 9. Number 1. One day, Mrs. Smith gave her husband a pair of her shoes.
Lesson 10. Number 1. Tom was working in Mr. Brown's cafeteria on Washington Street. Number 2. 1. Board. World.
Lesson 11. Number 1. Once in the north of an island, a beautiful volcano stood high into the clouds. Number 2. 1. Exercise. 2. Information.
Lesson 12. Number 1. The Browns moved to a new town. Rose Brown had no friends.
Lesson 13. Number 1. One day, Mike went to a store to buy a pair of jeans and a jacket. Number 5. 1. Betty and her father are talking in the room. What are you going to buy for Mother's birthday?
I'm going to buy some flowers. She likes flowers very much.
Lesson 14, Number 1. Los Angeles, January 7th, 1998. Dear Ken, I hope you and your family are well. I am sorry I am late in writing this letter to you. Number 2. 1. Original. Development. Lesson 15. Number 1. One winter, there was a very big flood in a town.
Lesson 16. Number 1. The weather was so bad on that day that most workers in Washington were allowed to go home earlier than usual. Number 2. 1. 6 years have passed since he graduated from high school. 2.
Lesson 17. Number 1. Many of us live in large cities today, but in many places of the world, people live on farms and are farmers. They still live on farms and keep animals.
Lesson 18. Number 1. Excuse me, but is there a post office around here?
Go along the street for 3 blocks and turn left. Lesson 19. Number 1. An avalanche is a snowslide or a landslide. The snow or earth comes sliding down a steep slope. Number 2. 1. Enough. Rough. Though. Laugh. 2. Walk. Child. Milk. Silk. Number 5. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Mika.
Thank you for inviting me to your birthday party last night.
Lesson 20. Number 1. Every day we see and hear a great deal of advertising. Number 2. 1. European. Mathematics. 2. Carpenter. President. Number 3. 1. Can I speak to Ben?
He's not at home. Can I take a message? Lesson 21. Number 1.
Excuse me, do you mind if I sit here?
Not at all. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Are you going somewhere or are you meeting someone?
I'm on my way to Washington, D.C. Lesson 22. Number 1. Today, the air in big cities is likely to be far from fresh or pure. Enormous amounts of wastes are being sent into it. The air is polluted, made impure by them. Number 5. Last summer, Tom came from Canada to stay at Kenji's house for 2 weeks. One day, Tom and Kenji went fishing in the sea. They wanted to catch many big fish.
Lesson 23. Number 1. The sky in certain northern parts of the world is often lighted up by the beautiful northern lights. Another name for them is aurora borealis. For a long time, the northern lights were a great puzzle. Number 2. 1.
I found this pencil in our classroom. Do you know whose pencil it is?
No, I don't. Jim always uses that kind of pencil, so it may be his can. 2.
Look, May. The bus is coming, but there are so many people in it. Let's take the next one.
I want to take this bus. If I take the next bus, I won't arrive at my house by 6.